Factz Ova Feelinz, the podcast. Special guest on deck. Welcome. It's always a pleasure to have a beautiful female sitting across from me versus the more common, rough counterpart. I want to welcome the Brigette to the Factz Ova Feelinz podcast. I'm so glad you could join us today.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
I've been trying to get you here for quite some time. You've been quite busy.
Yes, busy. This year is an election year, so
Indeed.
yes.
I was going to ask you about that. You jumped right into it. I wanted to ask you first about the bling bling.
No, you definitely can. I just,
it's a beautiful piece on your chest.
Yeah.
Blue is my color. What's that all about?
So it is my birthday.
Happy birthday.
No, yeah, so not today, but yes, thank you very much for the birthday wish.
Well, why would you have to dictate not today if you're wearing a birthday plaque?
We represent this all month long.
Yeah, so it's your happy birthday.
All right. Thank you.
That's good to know.
Yes.
So you've been celebrating your birthday recently, and I'm also familiar with the fact that your presence here has been delayed because you've been kind of caught up in the political scene. I know you are very interested in politics, so upon introduction here, I thought we might as well discuss your interest in politics and your recent involvement in the current political scene here locally.
Okay.
If you don't mind.
No, definitely not. So I did work with a couple candidates this past season, to help get them across the line. It's my passion there. I went to college for, truthfully, when I went to college, my goal was to be an attorney. And I majored in political science. And just as I studied more and learned more, I started to love American government more and just how things work. And I realized that being an attorney was more of reading every night and writing briefs every night. So lots of reading and writing. Nothing like you see on the TV shows.
Okay, it's not just being in court with the mouthpiece.
Exactly.
Okay.
It's a lot of reading and writing because that's where the battle is. You're going to write a brief and submit things to the court to shut the other person down. The goal is to never get to court. But when you grow up like me watching LA Law and different TV shows and you get this vision.
The essence of your job is being able to speak up.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. And so then I realized that one of my true passions was really just kind of to help people not be railroaded in a sense. So, and I didn't need to be an attorney for that. And I definitely did not have a passion to just read and write briefs every night. I wanted to do what they do on TV. Right?
Okay.
And
so throughout your educational process, your interest shifted.
Exactly. It shifted. I can say that it officially shifted during college. We were doing a mock trial, and I was a witness in the case. And I studied and practiced what I was going to say. I had everything rehearsed perfect. And the other side crushed my testimony so much, the lawyer couldn't call me to the stand at all.
Wait, how did they crush your testimony if you never got to the stand?
Based on other things so they crushed the idea of what I was going to say. Anything coming from me was no longer relevant.
Was this a scripted trial?
So yes and no. So the witnesses, the people involved, we received scripts. Okay. The attorneys were two real attorneys who had to battle what was in the script. And so the other attorney created such a strong case that it would have been counterproductive for our attorney to even call me.
That's very interesting. If there was a script as far as result, I don't understand how
there wasn't an end result script. There was scripted what different people were testifying, the case as general, but the end result was the battle of the attorneys.
Oh, but each side only had a certain amount of information that they could submit as far as evidence, and then it was still the attorneys.
Both sides had all the evidence.
So the jury, they had no script. Was there a jury involved?
The jury did not have a script.
Okay.
And so after all that studying and rehearsing and practicing of what I was going to say and how it was going to be said, I was never called to the stand. The work that the opposite attorney, the work that they did shut us down so cold, I was never called to the stand. And in my mind, I was thinking of this image that I watched growing up, like we're gonna be in this court, right?
Yeah.
Never happened. I got Matlock, Perry Mason, all of this in my head. Never happened.
You were disappointed.
Yeah, and even now, when you go to a courtroom right now, the lawyers and the judges, they say things, they quote different things, and they speak so fast, and the judge hit the gavel, and you're standing there like, what happened? And it's done. And you were ready to go.
And it leaves you wondering, why am I paying so much money? What up, Carlo?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And you just paid him to do what he did because he knows what to say, how to say it, what to write, what motion to submit. He knows what to do. So it's a lot of the behind the scenes work. And that was not my vision. That wasn't my dream that I had.
That's right.
And so now what I find myself doing fairly often is when there's a family member or a friend and they have a stack of paperwork and they need to fill something out and they're just confused. And I read it with them and I tell them, if you put yes here, this is going to happen. And I say, if you put no here, this is going to happen. And if they look at me and say, but it is yes. And I say,
you do this too for your family members and who else?
Yeah, family members and friends.
Okay. Before we began this production, you witnessed me sign quite a few papers.
I did.
You made comments, but you did not tell me what would happen if I did this or that. Well, I didn't get am I not family or friend?
No, you are.
Oh, okay. I'm just fucking.
No.
No, but she is honest to what she's saying because when she got here, I was in the middle of putting my Hancock on a few little situations that she happened to witness, and she could not help but comment to me, I don't see you reading those. I'm like, okay.
It's like, you're not reading it.
But I had already previously read them before she arrived.
Right.
That was funny.
Right. And that's why I didn't stop you and say, oh, this could happen because you were clearly comfortable.
Right.
You obviously trusted the other party that presented you with the paper. So I was like, he got it under control. He know.
Right.
But you're right. Under any normal circumstance, I'd be like,
that's right.
Stop.
That's a valuable
read
person
this.
to have in your team on your team at all times.
Right.
Because even with the terms of agreement, we get so used to just accepting and agreeing. And I've seen a few presentations that have convinced me we've agreed to a lot of shit we probably wouldn't prefer to agree to if we took our time.
Yeah.
We live in a time where it's so hard to avoid, though.
Right. Well, what happens is I think we're brainwashed by television shows. So you watch something like Law and Order and you fall in love with Benson and Stabler. So you're in love with them and you see how they function. And so then when you're faced with a police officer, you've already convinced yourself that they're going to be like them. They're going to help me. They're this, they're that. And I'm not saying that they're not going to help you, but by you functioning in that capacity, your guard is down. Most people actually forget that they have the right to remain silent.
Even right after they just told you and they reminded you, yes.
Because they in their mind, they're talking to Stabler. They're going to help. I'm going to tell them the truth and they're going to help me out.
That's deep because even without relating it to the actual television characters, they have the approach of coming at you like a buddy, a pal, somebody that cares, and they'll just suggest to you that you already want to talk to them. And a lot of people, before they even realize it, you're explaining to them and talking to them because they told you that you want to get this off your chest and you want to clear this out and it's the best thing for you. And what I feel so contradictory is that they can tell you, hey, the best thing for you is to tell me what's going on right now. Right after telling you, you have the right to remain silent, and anything you say, and it's always caught my ear. It doesn't just say traditionally, anything you say will be used against you in court or can. It says can and will. That was just like I don't know.
But they don't, that's not something that is taught to us. To recognize those words can and will.
But that seems so deliberate to insert the and will. Like you think they would just say can, like warning, be careful what you say because it could potentially harm you. But to put the and will, like whoa, like.
That's right, can and will.
And will.
But this is where they really get you, when they tilt their head a little bit and they hit you with a guilty person doesn't ask for a lawyer. If you weren't guilty, you would go ahead and talk to me. You're innocent, right?
Right.
Go ahead and talk to me.
Right. And often people that are in that position feel like that somehow they can talk their way out of jail tonight. Yes. And 9 out of 10, once you're in that position, you're not going home today. There's nothing you can really say to get home today.
They don't know that.
Right.
And because in their mind, I'm talking to my friend. They're trying to help me. They like me. When the energy in the room is nice and they like me. They gave me a soda. They gave me something to drink. which you just gave them your DNA, but okay. You
Were there any particular political issues in this last local campaign that had your attention? Anything that was on the ballot that really had your heart that you were interested in?
In the South Bay area, there are lots of issues with people that, not even just the South Bay area, but people that work at the port, people that work in grocery stores.
IOWU.
So right now in America, there's a challenge that I personally believe we're going to have to face it with some intelligence, and it's the challenge of automation.
The A word.
And I watched a video. I actually even shared it on my social media. I watched a video of these people at a Kroger grocery store with a shopping cart that had a scanner on it, and the bags come. You put the bags in the cart. As you're going through the store, you scan your item, put it in the cart. When you're finished, you walk to the door. You put your card on the basket. You swipe your card, and you take your bags, and you leave the store, or you push the card out to your car and return it. But literally, it was you on the shopping cart, and you paid. It's one thing to have even self-check. They at least have one person employed. Sometimes two if it's a large self-check area.
Amazon has a grocery store in Cerritos with a format similar to that. From what I understand, you go in the store, you get your basket, you fill it up. As long as you're an Amazon member and you have a device that's on, you just pass through a certain area and everything goes to your account.
And it's crazy. I remember now sometimes you're almost forced to do self-check because they'll have one cashier.
Right.
And it's 100 people in the store.
Right.
But there was a time when I never touched self-check.
Right. It
Never.
seems so foreign, huh?
Well, it was just once I recognized years ago that
you don't want to support
it takes a job. I didn't want to support it.
Yeah.
I did not. I worked at Safeway when I was younger. I worked for Safeway. There was a time when I worked for Singular Wireless, and they gave us a script. And what we were supposed to say at the end of every call is remind people to dial pound whatever, star whatever to pay your bill or to do this or to do that. I was supposed to inform them of what to do to avoid me.
Right.
Now, if I do that, what happens to me?
You're eliminating the need for you.
Exactly. So it wasn't just me, but me and many other people. We would look at each other and look at that paper.
So this is before the recorded calls, a time before that. Because how can you be on record continuously recording yourself not doing what your job dictates?
No. There was recording because, we had managers and they recorded us and they monitored our calls here and there. But they
never caught that? Well,
you have a team of, let's say my team was 25 people and we have one manager and then she has a manager. But you have a call center with like almost 1,000 people working in it. So imagine how much manpower would need to be in place to listen to every single call. So yes, the calls are generally monitored.
But with that many people in a call center, you or your few friends felt like you guys could affect the overall with just you guys.
Well, see, when I say
the spirit, it takes some time.
And we know it wasn't just us.
Right.
In the break room with various people in there, people would make little comments or giggle and laugh. Right. So it was an overall general conception that they must be crazy if they want us to say this to these people. So did we say it at times? Of course, because you'd have a manager that standing here saying, reminding you, say it, don't forget to say it. So you'd say it, and when they walk away, you just don't say it anymore.
Correct. Right.
Because we're like, why would we, at that time, we had been getting 2 hours overtime every day, and we were so accustomed to the overtime, when they took it, it felt like a pay cut because we started to live at that overtime level. And that was the first, we were like, okay, the overtime's gone. Now they're going to start laying people off. Y'all keep telling people to call.
I just saw a clip the other day, somebody at the drive-thru giving a whole order to an automated voice. Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm not saying there's no place for it. I am not against progress. I appreciate progress. There are some great things that we have,
But do you feel like you really have a chance at affecting the fact that automation, to me, seems to be inevitable? I actually work at the ports where automation is a big issue, and as passionately as I would like to fight against what I see automation to be. I just think it's inevitable. The fact that, like you say, it's in every element of life.
Right.
Even when I've seen footage of people being at restaurants where they're sitting at a table like at a Denny's, and then it's this little circular tubicle thing that'll pull up,
Yeah.
There's no human there, but there's all the plates there that they just ordered on this digital thing here.
Wow.
And it's everything, and you just take them off the thing. I've seen other footage of people walking through the airport and their luggage is following them on little Bluetooth controlled little pallets that's just following through the airport.
Right.
How do you even, as bad as like as humans that like to see, like we have these industries, I'm personally involved in one where this is our livelihood, we benefit from it. When you look at the whole world, how do you attach yourself to, that's like, to me, it's almost like holding on to a small twig in the midst of a big ass storm instead of just going with the flow when you know it's no way. Like, how do you stop? Like, how do you invest yourself in fighting that? I don't feel like there's no way to, this is the way the world is going, especially in our country.
Yeah, so I feel like the way that we have to fight it is be honest with ourselves. So every job that you just named, most of those jobs are jobs that do not require a lot of education. We're talking about a waitress, a cashier, somebody carrying boxes, somebody moving bins, working maybe a forklift. You know, you don't need a degree for those things. Maybe some training, of course, but you don't need a master's, you don't need a PhD, none of that. So imagine this, you have all across the United States, every high school, let's say they have an average of 400 people graduating. So you have all of these people, millions of people graduating, going into either college or the workforce. So what happens to that person that had, I had a job. I worked at McDonald's. I worked at the library. I worked at the DMV as I was going through school. So those people that are leaving school that had those part-time jobs while they were in college, those part-time jobs are now going to robots and computers. So I'm not saying let's stop all progress. I'm saying let's recognize that we are human in a human society, and let's limit some of it.
But humanity comes secondary in a capitalist society. We are in a capitalist society, and the dollar and the profit margin reign supreme. That gap is what's always going to be the focus of the people that are at the core of these decisions. And I understand the human argument. I would love us to stand out and just preach it. I just don't see it ever being effective when I see the way things are going.
I'm not saying let's not let us have, automated cashiers and the self-check. So let's say do that.
You're suggesting this as if this is like a family meeting where we're deciding what we're going to do.
So my point that I was going to make was that we have to start with changing our educational system so that when these kids are leaving high school, because there's a whole group of people right now that are literally going to be challenging for them to get a job because they don't have the skills to work at the higher level. So if we change our educational system, period, just in the United States, it's changed to where people are taught the higher skill. So then no one is like, oh, I'm going to look for a job to be a cashier because that's not a job that you would ever do. We have computers for that. Now, it's one thing to have computers and swipes and automation. I think the part that gives me pause is the robot. Because then, as long as there's automation, then maybe we need 2 employees to do this, and 2 over here and 5 over here, when before we had 100. But if we introduce robots, that 5, 2, and 2, now those 9 people are completely gone.
I totally agree, but the thing I'm beyond is the if.
Oh, no, it's coming.
Yeah, so now it's like, what is our reality of game plan? The fact that this is our reality, because there's no such thing as, okay, this might not be the best way to go. In our lifetime, we might not see it acted out as much as it would be like in our children's. However, it is a reality today. Like, robots are not a word that sounds like something from a movie.
Right.
And robots are conducting, and they're not always robots.
Right.
I even have a friend, a very close friend of mine. Shout out to my boy Vicious Victor. He, for a living, he repairs and maintains the robotic arms that are utilized to do surgeries. So just to even see that, and then to understand the concept, just think about it. Some of the most intricate surgeries that have to be done on some of the most vital parts of your body. Would you prefer to have a human hand with the propensity for tremble error, or the precision that we know technology provide, that same intellectual surgeon have programmed precise robotic arms to go in and do the type of work we know that is way more probable to be precise based on the coordinates and the. What would you prefer if you really had to sit down and make the decision before you went under the anesthesia?
So it's interesting because you know how as we get new things, and let's say you have something in your life for 6 months, and maybe at first you were kind of nervous and afraid about it, but
Right.
after time it gets more relaxed and you're more
Correct.
comfortable with that idea. So I guess that's where I am, which is why even when people talk about the automatic cars, you know, right now
I still can't.
I want to just drive. I feel comfortable in a car.
I don't understand how that ever is going to work, but go ahead.
Okay, but it's the same concept, right?
It's so
the
real.
same level
It's
of
so real.
relaxation, and you trust this computer and you trust that. And so I probably, to be completely honest with you right now, I think I would want a human, and I'm going to tell you why. I have lots of electronic devices, television, phones, whatnot, and many times they glitch, they act up. You got to power them off, power them back on, take the battery out, put it back in. You got to reset it, unplug it.
What's the last device you took a battery out of?
It
Thank
was
you.
recently. No, it wasn't a cell phone. It was what was that? It was
No.
no. It wasn't like
No,
last
I'll
month.
wait. No, I'm not rushing you.
But my current phone, correct. My current phone.
What's the last
battery
device? I
is-
didn't limit the phone because you went through a list of devices.
Oh, the last device I took a battery out of was the remote control.
Okay, but those were like Duracells.
The Roku was tripping. I was like, something ain't right.
Move on to Trump.
Trump. Actually, I haven't heard of a battery coming out of a cell phone in a long time.
That's true. That's true.
I mentioned politics earlier, and with the mind frame of bringing up the fact that I learned recently, not only is Kanye West, but Donald Trump have now announced their run for the presidency in 2024. Is this something you expected? Is it something that you seem like? Do you think either of them are going to be considered as valid candidates?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I absolutely expected it. And when I saw Kanye and Candace Owen wearing their 2024 baseball caps, I did not think that Kanye was going to announce a bid. What I actually believed was that Donald Trump was going to announce his bid, and he was going to name Candace as his VP. That is what that was my first thought. But then Kanye announced, and I thought, do they really think they're going to win with 2 black people on the ticket? And now don't be so quick to say no, because MAGA's big.
Well, not just, it might not be just 2 black people. I don't think the male portion of the 2 is currently on a social level to pull it off. Perhaps before the last couple months, he may have had a chance. But now I think he kind of like tanked his opportunity to be the other black person.
So we have microwave minds, most of us. We don't function in crock pot and marathon. We don't move slow. We move fast and we move to the next thing. It's 2022. That election's in 2024. Half these people ain't even gonna remember or care about anything Kanye said this month.
Think so, huh?
Yep.
Might be, I cannot argue that point is not being valid.
Even right now with the LA City Council, a month or so ago, there was recording that came out where they were talking, different.
Real spicy.
They were having their backyard conversation.
That's what we agreed to.
If you were at somebody's house, they would be having that conversation. They just didn't know they were being recorded. But I believe the gentleman Gil Cedillo, he did not win the next term, but his term doesn't finish until January. He's finished.
You mean he went through an election after that scandal?
Well, so no, when there was an election, but he didn't win.
Okay.
But he gets to finish out his term.
And you saying you believe that won't affect it? It's going to be too far in the past.
So you have a group of people that are wanting him to resign and step down, and he's refusing to because it ends anyway because he did not win the re-election.
Oh, okay.
And so many people are like, he should just step down. He should just step down. And somebody asked me, and I said, no, if I was him, I wouldn't step down either. And they was like, why not? I said, I wouldn't. I said, stepping down, that puts on your resume that you resigned, that you quit, that you ran, that you did something wrong. I think I want to say he giggled. He didn't comment, but I think he was a part of the laughter or whatever. Because guess what? When his term is over, he can go public speak, be a professor. He can do whatever. And in 2 years, 3 years, 4 years,
It'll be office.
he can come right back and run again. And when somebody brings it up, you know what the new people are going to be like? They're going to be like, we don't care. You know why they're going to say they don't care? Because most of them heard all that conversation in their backyard anyway.
Well, there's a specific issue about Trump and the 14th Amendment and his alleged participation in insurrection that took place on January 6th that his opponents are raising that may disqualify him from even really being able to make a run. Are you familiar with that concept or that idea?
Well, let me play a clip. I'm gonna play a clip of just Trump announcing.
Okay.
The beginning of our fight to rescue the American dream. And it's a word you don't use, 2 words. I don't want to be Joe. It's 2 words, American dream. That was not good what he did. There are a lot of bad things, like going to Idaho and saying, welcome to the state of Florida. I really love it. In order to make America great and glorious again, I am tonight announcing my candidacy for President of the United States.
There you go, guys.
I hate to admit, just based on some of the rhetoric that I kind of lended my voice to agree to, I feel like he might be the best choice I'm aware of without me being too politically sound. He not only, from what I can recall, provided a lot of stimulation to the actual environments that our people frequent. A personal friend of mine, Corvain Cooper, had received a life sentence for some marijuana charges out of town, and he was down for like 10 years or better. But before Trump got out of office, he let my partner go, a personal friend of mine. So I have a very personal appreciation for Trump that I didn't really possess while I was trying to like filter through what everybody was saying and certain things. And what happened to me really, my father, what up, Big Tommy? I used to visit Arizona to see my father often, and he would sit in the kitchen and watch Trump on TV and just be like, man, I can't stand that motherfucker, man, this motherfucker right here. And then everybody was saying this about him at the same time, but my daddy, we got a relationship to where I'm like, I had never really heard nothing about him that really made people say that. So I was always the devil advocate in these circles because the only thing they would say, he would say, man, he racist toward the Mexicans about the border. And I actually heard what he said. And he did not generalize that this is all they providing. Right. He just said it's included. And he said it probably lacked some tact. But I knew that was not condemned. You couldn't really condemn him or convict him on that statement.
Right.
So I used to challenge my dad. I'm like, man, why you don't like him? And he'll give me these vague things. And when I try to pinpoint an answer, he would try to go to that. Yeah. And then I used to like just shoot it down. So I was first before a long time. I was like, man, I ain't got no problem with Trump, man, because every time I ask somebody why you don't like him, they can't give me a real reason. And I'm going to tell you what I fell victim to. This nigga. And that fuck Donald Trump shit. Donald Trump, whoa, it's the homie. And then I started looking at him for reasons not to like him and why, because I wanted to agree with the whole shit. Yeah. Like, so what I picked out that I could hang my fuck Trump on was, I saw his reaction when the Central Park 5 came out and they showed Wade when he was younger, and he said something about hang him, and they weren't found guilty yet. And then that, I was like, okay, that's something I could dislike him for. And then he doubled down on it after he was Trump, the president, or running for president, and the movie came out and was getting all this attention, and they became exonerated. They gave him another opportunity and asked him, would you like to like, and he doubled down on that. So I found myself saying, well, fucking for that. And then it was a couple other things on that nature. It was a couple things he said that was like really like, But this is what I've realized with politics and myself personally. When I do become aware of them in America, it's not about having any type of love relationship with anyone I may have to have any type of support or preference of. It's the fact that if I have to have a decision, a vote, an idea, a thought of who would do the best job of driving this vehicle while I'm riding in it, it could be fuck him and fuck him, but I would prefer him to be doing the driving. And when you look at it from that perspective, take the emotions out, it doesn't have to be an endorsement of this guy to say that I would prefer him over anybody else that could potentially do it.
Right.
And that's me.
Even with like when you bring up the Central Park 5, you know, like your show was Factz Ova Feelinz. He was definitely in his feelings. He was completely emotional. during the time that it was happening in the case, he took out like full page ads.
I recall that.
So once you've vested all of that and you've done all that, you've got to be, you know, maybe a special kind of person or humble enough to be able to say, you know, I apologize, I take it back. I don't believe he possesses that characteristic. Once he's gone in full force, both feet, 10 toes, he gonna ride it out, right or wrong. Because and that's just my personal opinion of him. As far as him just winning and getting all Democrats, Republicans everywhere, if he had what are they called? Not necessarily a publicist, or maybe it's a publicist, just a PR person that works with him and he actually listened to them. If I could have ever said something to him, I would have told him, I would have said, we need you to be a little bit more Reagan-esque and a little less Dice Clay, and you'll have everybody. But you're too cut and dry, and everybody can't take that.
I think if he gets action this second time, all that is gonna it's gonna compensate. What's happening?
Oh, Central Park 5.
We're going to get something done.
I felt like they might take us to the back of the precinct and kill us.
Man.
This is a hugely important story. I wish I could tell you it was unique, that 5 Black and Hispanic boys were arrested for...
My bad, I thought that was Donald Trump.
But that wasn't Donald Trump talking?
Yeah, that was him in the beginning, but I'll come back to it.
That was his voice, right?
Yeah.
And I could hear where he was going. This is how I started not liking him. I could get it. This is...
Well, he was there, and you have to understand the way he wasn't in the interrogation room. He didn't see how they got it all. They just put it out there.
No, but irregardless, but did you hear what he just said?
Yeah.
I wish I could say this is an uncommon thing.
Right.
A few Black and Hispanic guys. When we know, if we just have any general familiarity with the spectrum of crime, the R thing is they thing. If you want to be not shocked by who's
Who took out full-page ads in all the daily newspapers asking for the return of the death penalty and more police.
Of course I hate these people. And let's all hate these people, because maybe hate is what we need if we're going to get something done.
And he believed that these children...
And you know what some people would consider R? Grabbing them by the pussy. And he want to spew hate. And you know what he said? The clip I saw that really struck me, he was moving and like paparazzi asked him about these guys back in those times. And it was pre-trial. And he said, lynch them. That's the terminology he utilized. Lynch them. Yeah. And then here it is in the 2000s when he's presidential and he is loved by all the Black culture with hip hop and all that. And they say, hey, Trump, you know this dude's got exonerated.
Right.
We looking for any type of concession. Just throw us anything. He wouldn't do it. But look what Kanye and Kyrie have to, look what Kyrie in particular. You can speak on Kanye, because we talking about president. But just look how it goes on the opposite side. How do you make president of the United States when you say lynch these innocent until proven guilty
How do you
kids?
make president when you got 5 or 6 baby mamas? Because Barack Obama couldn't have had that.
And
he would have been he would have been depicted as the...
No, characterized because of his pigmentation. He had to be the perfect person characterized.
Exactly, but even presidents before him
were less.
Even when their marriage was just on paper or just for the purpose of work, they couldn't even have. Look what they did to even Clinton when they started to try to pull out women, and they've always persecuted every single person running for any office when it comes to that. When it came to Donald Trump, they was like, "What? That's okay."
Why do you believe that was the case?
I think he prepped the audience with his the television show where he would say "You're fired" was The Apprentice, because on that show he would have his children with him. And they didn't have the same mother. So we got accustomed to seeing him with his children and not the mothers. So we don't get to see the baby mamas, and it's like out of sight, out of mind. You see a father who's married to Melania, and he has all of these kids. Now, we know those are not Melania's children, but those mothers, they stayed away. During the entire time he was on the... Think about it. How many times did you see any of his baby mamas on TV doing whatever?
I'll be honest with you, I've never watched this show a day in my life, so...
Oh, that Apprentice show?
Yeah, I've never.
So, yeah, it was...
But I can't... I can relate and I can follow your
So
description.
at the end of the show, when the cast would come to meet their fate, to talk about whatever task they completed or didn't complete, Donald Trump would be there with his children. And he didn't have all of them, but it would always be him and his kids. So you never even look at those people as having like a different mama because they're with their father.
And
right. So it's out of sight, out of mind. So then when they started to try to even make a point of it, the people were like, so he takes care of his kids. We don't care who the mamas are.
So do you think it's more about his particular presentation, his experience, and less about the new condition of our society? I remember we were speaking off camera earlier, even with the producers, about how he said, I believe someone in the room said that their child told them like, Dad, our generation's not tripping on marriage like that. Do you believe it's like more of Trump and less of what's going on now, or a combination of both?
I think it's a combination of both, because even from a conversation earlier, I see people doing that, and I honestly think like just shows like The Bachelor and The Bachelorette, like television. People have to remember it's called television programming for a reason. It conditions you to think a certain way, feel a certain way, believe certain things. Why else would candidates spend so much money on commercials?
This is why I don't understand how they can have such an effective argument against the fact that they are weaving so many ideals into children's programming as if it's not going to have an effect on even people who would never have thought about it. When the science of everybody spending billions on commercials is based upon the influence it's going to have on the brain.
And it always has. People will show you, when you look back at other shows where it shows Lucille and Ricky Cardo, they slept in separate beds.
And they were married.
Then you move forward and you start to see,
when they were about to have little Ricky, they couldn't even use the word pregnant on TV.
Right. So then you start to see where now they're showing the husband and wife in the same bed. Okay, fine. Now you're starting to see where they're not even married and they're in the same bed. Now you're going to even for where they even have now same sex in the same bed.
And now you got,
it's just everything. So whatever, and
so where's that end? Because no, stop. We gotta go. No, fuck that, because that is such a natural. So how far does that go? Let's go.
Truthfully, I don't know, because there's some things on TV that I never thought they would show.
What do you think about the fact that society is so invested in the concept of the sexuality of minors? It's like
because
right where we are.
Because they have to change the way we think.
I want to say that as a natural progression to where it seems to be heading. And if you look at the current condition of the fact that a couple years ago, my son started 8th grade. And when it's time to register him from school, the box that says male and female, there were like 8, 9 options.
That's crazy.
And male and female had the least letters of almost all the options. There were all these big words that you can choose. What is the effect? I just see that the progression of what you just described with the television and all that, I don't see anywhere else it can go. From my understanding, they have something. I'm so uneducated on that subject, I don't even want to try to touch in it, but I believe the P word is a natural destination. And when you look at the decline of moral fiber in those type of scenes that we depict regularly on the screen, when you go from what you said, Ricky and Lucy couldn't sleep in the same bed as a married couple on TV, and then what Lil Nas X be up to at the awards with the shit he did with the devil, the lap dance. How in a society that everybody, when they grew up every day in public school, had to salute the flag and say one nation under God, how does a nation get to that? Do you think taking prayer out of school had anything to do with it?
Oh, it absolutely did. I think also sticking Planned Parenthoods and brainwashing Black people to not have children under the guise of we're trying to help you. So you have a group of people who are inherently churchgoers, and they're told at least once a week that he won't put anything on you that you can't bear. But then you have somebody else come over here.
People ever.
Exactly. But then you have these people over here that even my parents, because my parents signed that paper, let them come into our schools to talk to us about reproduction and whatnot, but my parents didn't read the form. There were some kids that weren't allowed to do it. Their parents refused to let them do it. But I was allowed to be in that class. But what I learned in that was that abortion was okay. And that
a mainstream option for being pregnant.
yes, because what they did is they introduced pregnancy to me in the 5th grade as a mistake if you're not playing for.
If you're in the 5th grade,
Right, but
yeah,
but this is the thing though. Imagine I was in a household where my parents read that stuff and they function differently. What we call them right-wing Christian, let's just say I was taught different. Like, no, it's not a mistake. Like if I was taught God creates life and it doesn't matter where it's created or how it's created, that was his choice. So it's never a mistake. When I'm in class and they're saying, well, if you have a mistake, I heard Barack Obama say that, well, if my daughter made a mistake, I want her to be able to, and I thought to myself, but how could it be a mistake if God creates life? So you can't argue one side and not the other. So how could he make you a boy and it not be a mistake? It's not.
There's one thing I said to you a while back that I want you to remind you of. I stay away from absolutes. Because there are some things that lead to pregnancy I can consider as mistakes. And I can describe them in detail, graphically.
Well, so I'm going to tell you why I'm usually that person that people are like, yeah, but you're the exception. So oftentimes when you get in the conversation about abortion with people, the first thing they talk about is rape. That's like one of the first things they throw up.
I mean, it's the inevitable elephant in the room.
Well, what if somebody's raped and it happened? Well,
I believe the individual should have options.
Right. So now you have a woman like me. I've never birthed a child. Okay. I have children, but I've never birthed a child.
Correct.
So not having ever birthed a child, but wanting to, I've done it all. I've done hysterosalpingo. I've done so many things where they've looked and checked basal body. I've done all those things. And I do now believe that we have figured out what it is that it will take. I'm getting up in age, but I don't believe that things like that matter, right? Because I believe that God creates life. So
you're on a Factz Ova Feelinz podcast, and feelings are almost synonymous with belief.
Okay, so I'm going to tell you.
Okay, I'm listening. I'm listening. Sis. Go ahead. Talk your shit. Just want a real reminder.
I know. I got you. We good. So, just with that being said, the life is created there. You have your eyes right now. I am a product of a rape.
God bless your soul.
So now, my mother was not raped by my father. My grandmother was raped by my father's dad. So my father is here as a product of a rape.
You're second generation.
Yes. And so when they say that, I say, okay, well, I am not grateful for the rape. It definitely affected my grandmother in ways where she would self-medicate, where she would use alcohol to numb the feelings. My father was raised by his aunt for a long period of time, because I'm sure it's difficult to look in a rapist's face, because if you saw my father and my grandmother, to me, they don't really look alike. But if you saw my grandfather and my dad, twins.
But your personal experience of being able to go through that experience, understand it, and accept it to a degree where you don't want to include the word mistake in your experience, do you think everyone that experiences similar trauma is obligated to meet the situation the way you have?
Absolutely not. So I don't take the position that there should not be the ability of abortion. I don't take that position at all, because I do believe that there are going to be times when it's needed.
Correct.
Right. So I don't take that position. When I mentioned about me not having birthed a child, is you have women who have done so many things, spent thousands and thousands trying to. Maybe they're ovulating this week and they had intercourse with their husband, and they were also raped this week. Now that baby in them, they don't know whose it is. Is it the rapist? Is it my husband? There are many women who, not even in that situation, who just want a baby and couldn't have one and got raped and was like, okay, God, if that's how you gave it to me, then that's how I take it. So I guess I just get like, kind of taken back when they want to use that as the excuse, because I want to always ask them, have you asked anybody that was rape? Don't use that as a defense. Just say what you want to say, because I have a very strong opinion when it comes to that.
I don't want to. No, I'm not going to. But I just feel like your experience is so personal.
Yeah.
To project it on the general population when the R word comes up is, I don't want to be offensive, but it seems to be unfair, because that is such a traumatic experience. It seems like you have learned to dig into the depths of what you are in order to come out strong on the opposite side.
Right, and I believe if a woman is raped and she conceived during that rape and she doesn't want that baby, she don't have to keep. I don't have no issue with her keeping that baby.
At the same time, I believe there are beautiful stories that come on the opposite side of the
Exactly.
opposite decision.
Exactly.
But I believe that is the one moment that it should be up to the woman with nobody say so.
I agree. I agree. So my concern is, this is my not even a concern. This is my problem. It's just a bunch of reckless women who want to live free and be hoes and do what they want to do with zero consequences.
Yes.
And they want to use rape as an argument to hold their position just to be a tramp.
Correct.
Miss me with that.
Correct.
I need you to be more responsible. Well, it's my choice. You got choices, heifer. You got film, foam, condom, female condom, pill, IUD, shot. What? You gonna pass all those options to kill the baby?
To enjoy experience with somebody that you don't want to reproduce with, obviously.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So y'all laying there. If you land there with him, you don't want to have his baby. Why you land there with him? So you just getting your rocks off. He got a wet hole. Y'all just chilling and doing whatever. And then a baby coming. Y'all looking at you like, we don't want this baby. So why didn't you strap it up? There's dental dams, saran wrap. There's so many options. You want to pass all those options to kill the baby. And your main defense is, well, what if someone's raped? Was you raped?
Right.
No,
I can
you was
definitely
partying
relate.
it and you was flipping and so that's my problem. I'm not saying I'm totally against abortion. I'm against what they want to use for the argument. Like, really?
I agree.
You're just trying to have an argument just to be loosey-goosey.
Indeed.
Right now, the Supreme Court, people can be mad at them. They're calling women to a higher standard. That's all they've done.
By illegalizing.
They're just calling us to a higher standard.
You salute that, support that.
I don't have no issue with that.
I have no issue with it in general because I am not currently pressed with trying to take to the clinic because we did.
Right. But look, check this out. If you was cool with doing it raw, why you don't be concerned about the rest?
I just think that
because if she was that type and you wasn't really with her like that, strap it up, wrap it up.
I mean, that shit is easier said than done.
When you're in the moment.
And I'm just saying, just the reality of life.
So you know what?
You
know what also makes it a challenge is because every time you turn on the TV, they have something bravado for PrEP, this for PrEP, that for PrEP. I'm not saying we're supposed to be walking around super terrified of AIDS, but I don't think we're afraid enough. Because why are all these? If there wouldn't be these abortions if you wasn't worried about AIDS.
Do you realize the biggest street rapper popping right now is openly, admittedly, a nigga with herpes, and he got so many baby mamas. One of them is Floyd Mayweather's daughter. He got females fighting over him. He rap about his herpes. He talk about him. He post about the herpes, and he still is considered a sex symbol, and it don't even matter.
What's wrong with us? We're being called to a higher standard. What's wrong with us? Why you want that herpes? Why you want that infested? What? You want that?
It's a different time. Something is wrong with us, though.
It is.
Us.
It is.
Us. Just like the word WAP, the fact that the word WAP is a word that is not a word. When we say it, we know what it means. And the fact that the level of influence that presented it and the acceptance they have on our mainstream, we have a problem. We definitely have a problem.
Exactly. What's wrong with us? And, it's... I tell you, it's my whole life I would hear the elders saying, it's the end of times. It's the end of times.
It's really feel like it.
I promise you, my entire life right now, it feels like it.
Are you familiar with the knees down challenge? Or the good knees?
No.
And you hip to the good knees? It's like a social media thing, right? Females of all ages are doing this challenge. It's the good knees challenge where they get on the camera. Typically, it seems like they all either have on tights or shorts that's tights. And it's this little beat that plays. It seems like it's like a 30-second thing, but it's real slow. Like, put your hands up, put your hands up. And the females get in front of the camera and they cock their legs open. And the whole thing is about seeing how good your knees is. But the whole thing is it seems like every one of our females are strippers. They all know how to do stripper dances now, and they got these tights on, and the whole challenge is, to see how long you can balance on your knees while this little DJ is doing this little put your hands up and they just popping it, just everybody.
Just whatever. So now think
Everybody
about
is
that.
doing it.
You say that like they're being strippers, whatever. So it reminds me of a different challenge where they were like walking a certain way or whatever. But I just hadn't, seen that one. But think about it. We live in a society where there is the image of a man shortage. So let's say
It's 7-1.
So, okay. So, and if all these men are talking about strippers or they want this and they want that, the average woman, we feel like we have to either compete or comply to keep their attention. Right? So when you see people doing that, it's because they want to be able to compete or comply. Because we're convinced that, let's say you're in a relationship and one person cheats. Oftentimes, the person that was cheated on feels like, oh, it was something that I didn't have or I was lacking, like they put it on them. But then you'll have psychologists and stuff that'll tell you, no, it's the other person. They just needed something and didn't have anything to do with you. But that's not naturally, I believe, human. We just be like, oh, no, it was something we did. Oh, he cheated on me with that stripper. I can't do what she do, so I'm going to go over here and learn. So I take a pole dancing class, and I start dropping, like I said, I start doing all these things because I'm like, that's what he went for. So because I wasn't doing it. We're constantly trying to compete.
But it's like, that's one end of the spectrum. But I constantly, currently hear continuously, consistently females saying, with all the extras they do to their program, I don't do it for no man. And that's a very prominent theme in female expression when it comes to the fucking long ass nails with all the extra dazzles on them. They pointed with the BBL, with all the extras on the wigs, with the lashes. Anytime a man says anything as if like, damn, you ain't gotta do all that ain't what I want. They say, I don't do this for. We do this for myself.
And that's bullshit, right?
I mean, I would like to believe it's bullshit, but if it's not bullshit, and men are expressing that's not what we prefer.
Because they're not expressing that. They're expressing it to that woman. If you're us sitting here, we can have that conversation. But the image that's given to us in this television programming, that is what they
stand a fake. Look, only reason I don't express this more often is because I know people fuck cancer or, in other ailments to where they replace what was natural because they want to feel as whole as they possibly can.
Right.
And I don't want to shit on nobody that goes through that experience. But outside of that, I hate fake titties. I would rather kind of long, not firm as titty as it used to be than a fake titty.
Okay.
I don't know what makes this shit such a, because it's...
Well, turn on the TV. And look at any celebrity or anyone. The person on their arm is gonna have.
But just think about it. But think about this. When it comes to anything that you are interested in first by sight, but your ultimate interest is actual connection physically, whether it's trying on shoes or clothes.
Right.
Fuck what it look like. The actual deep attraction is what it feels like. There is nothing to compare a fake titty to a new titty. When you fuck with a fake titty, you gotta, the reaction, the sensation reaction is so delayed. You gotta trick yourself into believing she really like this shit, because you fuck with a real titty and you know how it go. But when you fuck a fake titty, it's like you could tell, you can't even feel this shit, bitch. You can't feel it. I'm sorry, I don't know how I got off the subject so far.
No, it's funny because you sitting here like I said, because I don't know. Mine are real. I wouldn't know that.
Natural.
Now, so you do know if earlier when we said the television programming, think about what they put, what they define beauty, what they show us as beauty. They show a tiny waist, a big booty,
but if you show me, you can show me the flyest whatever. I can fall for the look.
Right.
Once I get in it, if it don't feel right, they threw me for the okie doke.
But you going in it because of what it looked like.
But what I'm saying is this: I didn't know I didn't like a fake titty until I touched the motherfucker. But then, if you just see the way it looked, I'm just saying it's the only reason you know where it looked multiple times because of porn. The motherfucker don't even react right. Like, I don't understand how it got so popular. And if it's like you
it got popular because we're constantly trying to compete and compare. We're constantly comparing
with appearance.
Constantly, because look, even when you said, well, at first sight I might be attracted, but then when I get in there or whatever, when most relationships, the first
It's
initial.
so identifiable now. I could tell by the cleavage they fake. I don't even like the way that shit too firm. It's fake.
But most
The motherfucker
most
gotta
interactions
give.
begin by the visual.
And I'm saying it. And now they so common, they so identifiable. I don't care how pretty everything else is. When I see them, I'm like, eh.
Only because you tried it.
I apologize for getting off track, but I want to bring us back to what we was on. The 14th Amendment, Donald Trump. I don't know. I just feel like when he first announced his candidacy the first time, my brain just told me, no way. And then I was like, wow, he did it. Now they got this 14th Amendment issue. To me, it seems like he's going to glaze right past that.
Well, so this is the thing. In the 14th Amendment, so if he just participates, engages in insurrection.
You had something. You mind reading what you had? Because what was he up against? Because it was worded in a very specific way with the word engage.
I'll play a clip while she's looking for that.
Okay.
Fifth Amendment. But what about the 14th Amendment? Now, it's another option some lawmakers are considering. Now, this morning, we're connecting the dots. In the wake of the Capitol riots, there has been a lot of talk about impeachment and the 25th Amendment. But those are not the only options on the table. There is also the lesser-known 14th Amendment. Let's connect the dots. Added after the Civil War, the 14th Amendment is best known for granting citizenship to anyone born in the United States and guaranteeing equal protection under the law to all citizens. But under Section 3 of the amendment, it also says public officials can be expelled from office if they engage in insurrection or rebellion against the United States or provide aid or comfort to our enemies. According to historians, it was aimed at keeping former Confederates from holding office. A few Democrats have broached using the 14th Amendment to remove President Trump from office, but the louder calls are for using against members of Congress who encourage the protesters. Lawmakers who could be targeted include Representative Mo Brooks of Alabama, who was at the Washington rally before the riot, and Louis Gohmert of Texas, who suggested supporters take to the streets after his lawsuit to overturn the election failed. Senators Ted Cruz and Josh Hawley have also been mentioned. Whether this could actually happen is another matter. Political watchers say it may be harder to make a case against Cruz.
All right. So with this 14th Amendment, he just has to, it literally says, clear, shall have engaged in insurrection or rebellion.
Who determines whether or not he has?
Well, then right after that, it says, or have aided any enemies of the state.
I heard that,
right?
yeah.
So remember, right before he had a rally, they had an entire call out. See, all of that is considered engagement.
And now there have been people who've been convicted of crimes on that date as being a part of the insurrection now.
Right.
So those would be the people that
So once they were convicted, now we officially have on record that there was an insurrection because you were convicted of it. Okay. And then they say, well, I was at the rally, and remember Donald Trump, he had a stage, he had a podium, he had pillars, balloons. I wasn't there. I don't know. But let's just say they had water and, so that's all engagement. You're engaging in it. You're at the start of it. And you told them, we're going to start here. We're all going to march. You then gave them the order. All of that is considered engagement.
But as you and I would agree on that, who is it that ultimately determines whether or not the fact that we can say that's how it happened is going to say if that applies to him? Because he announced his candidacy.
So he'll go before the congressional committee and they'll determine it. And so this is why the way
what will happen.
So if it's in the Congress, I predict that they will vote no. They will say that he did not engage, but that's just because that's how the numbers are right now.
Would that ultimately allow him to go ahead and run?
Well, not if it goes before the Senate, because then the Senate is now heavily, the Democrats have the majority, so they will vote no.
I'm watching the fluctuation of your emotions as you describe one option versus the other. So I would assume you would be happy if they blocked him from being able to run, from the way I'm watching your face.
No, I would. No? I think it would just be interesting because
it's definitely interesting. I've never been this interested in politics ever in my life.
Right. I actually, with regards to January 6th, I would have preferred that entire day ended differently.
Or not happen at all?
Yeah, I prefer that it would not happen at all, but when it did happen, I wish that it would have ended differently completely.
In what regard?
Well, Donald Trump, Rudy Giuliani, Donald Trump's children, they were all there at that rally when that happened.
So
if that had been a rally of people that look like us,
correct,
everybody would have went to jail.
Correct.
Some people would have got shot. So I believe that that's what should have happened that day.
So how, with that being the way your position, how am I wrong in assuming you would want him to be blocked? You think even with that being the fact that he should have been criminalized for his participation that day, you now would not prefer him to be blocked from being the president in the future? It's pretty forgiving.
Well, it's not that I wouldn't want him to be the president in the future, because that didn't happen. You know, what's it? It didn't happen.
No, we're not going on it. We're talking about what your inner perception of what should have happened,
right,
based on his activity, his position, his participation. You deem, if you had the say so, he should have been criminalized.
Yes, that day it should have been criminalized.
I want to know how, fuck what everybody else says. How do you then feel like he should be a qualified candidate at any degree in the future?
So remember when I told you I wanted to go to law school, right? So now I'm like, well, you guys didn't do your job right the first time. Now you got to prove it. Now you got to fight for it.
So you believe on the technicality, he should be able to run again?
I believe that the opposing side, they need to do their due diligence.
So you know what? The beautiful stroke of a brush you paint American politics and this passion you fell in love with, you're letting me know that this shit is ran by gangsters in the bottom line.
It is. Well, think about it. Let's say they actually did what they were supposed to do on January 6th. Even if it meant close your eyes and pretend it's all blackface and get to work and handle it the right way.
Right.
We wouldn't even have the question now. So now that we got the question, let the lawyers do their work. Let's see who wins. Because you didn't do it right the first time. So now that you're faced with these options, let's see who's...
the integrity of the courtrroom is so up for
the
question.
integrity of the courtroom, she has a blindfold on where she's not supposed to be looking at all, but she peeking.
Integrity. It's not even left up to her. Because now what I realize the courtroom has come down to, it's not prove anything. It's convince the jury.
It's who gonna win? Who the baddest in here? Remember when I told you in that mock trial? The other side was Billy Bad. They shut us down. I couldn't even get on the stand.
But technically, you have to meet a burden of proof. And that's the definition, proof. You have to prove, and that's what everybody goes into the process kind of like subscribing to. You have to prove. But I want to differentiate. The actuality is there's no proof needed. All that's needed is convincing of these 12.
Oh, there's not even convincing, because the congressmen, the Republican congressmen that know, I'm gonna tell you why it don't even matter. Because they just went through re-election and they were elected based on what they believe.
This is my point. I don't want you to miss my point. My daughter's 19. One of the last things she told me, like, Daddy, I got jury duty. Individuals like her that's not attached to none of that sophistication. When she ends up on a jury, the burden is not to prove to her anything. It's to convince her. If you want her to vote one way or the other, you necessarily don't have to prove anything. There's a difference between proof and convincing.
Right. That's why we have a judge, because they're supposed to be there to guide it, but sometimes they don't.
It's not. It's the majority almost all the times. This is the way it really goes, and it's like a slight of the word that I've noticed personally. And this, I probably could start a campaign and get a whole people on my bandwagon with this one. This one I also think, off the subject, I swear to God, the NFL, y'all need to regulate the conditions. It is totally out of sync to take something that you consider next gen stats. Everybody's income and performance is tracked so closely that people would have to deal with the elements that challenges them from being as great as they've trained to be. And my performance and my overall statistics can end up suffering because I had to deal with the elements more times than a person that I was competing with on another team in another division. It is barbaric. It is ignorant. The proof was this recent game in that was snowed out. They had to move it. A lot of my peers, y'all been hearing me say this. Watch them regulate the fucking conditions in the NFL. The NBA, every other, when the fucking elements come into baseball, we stop the game until they're done.
Right.
But I think it is a totally ignorant process to be such a sophisticated sports organization to spend so many time to track my performance based upon my training, my intense elite training, and then y'all gonna make me go out there play in mud and fucking water when I'm a motherfucker that's supposed to be able to tiptoe and do all this bullshit. But that's off the subject. I'm sorry, I do that sometimes.
No, it's coming. I believe it's coming.
Okay.
When I was in Florida, usually certain times of the year, around 4 o'clock every day in Orlando, it would just thunderstorm and rain for like a few hours. Sometimes it'd come back that night. Well, the high schools in those areas, if it's raining, they have they have a standard. If it's raining, like they watch it. If it thunders like once or twice, like they watch it. If it lightnings, then like there's a certain thing and then they call it off.
I think
I think it's coming.
I think youth football, like you say, high school and all that, would be the more of the consideration versus professional. Right. Because they try to keep up with the same season, and it would be far more difficult to hide. I think the NFL, of course, could mandate it within 10 years and make sure everybody has a budget where we can eventually come up to it. But every high school, that'd be the hardest part. I think.
Right. So the high school is different, because also you're paying $7, $10, $15 maybe to get into a game. When it comes to the NFL, it's an entire production. We got all these, and we got 1,000 employees here in the stadium. We got parking, we got this, it's so many people here, and then now it's lightning, and they're like, well, we're either going to have to build superdomes where we're all enclosed,
right?
Because the TV, the time that they've already paid for on the network,
and when it comes to actual players, when it comes to agents, when it comes to money and trades and performance, they scrutinize your numbers so closely. And if the motherfucker that decide to choose over me played less games in the fucking elements than me, so that's just not fair in no way.
You're right. And money controls it all. So I just see, when I say it's coming, the alternative would be Superdomes being built. They're going to have to put the money somewhere.
It's so easy. I think they can just put roofs over a lot of shit. That could not even be just, you don't have to even rebuild a lot of structures. I think they can put tops on some shit probably.
Yeah. Or what do they call those accordion patios? Because you figure in Miami, in Arizona, in Los Angeles.
Arizona, they got the dome.
Okay, I didn't know. So, but like in California, people want the sun. People in certain places we want to see the sun. People want to.
We got the latest. We got a hybrid. We could do either.
So that's what I'm saying. Yeah. So that's what's going to start happening. Yeah. Money, they're gonna have to spend money.
Yeah, they're gonna have to. Yeah. And I want y'all to know right now, I haven't heard a public voice saying that yet, so I want to be the first on record saying NFL needs to be done, and I want to predict it will be done. I also feel like breaking the fucking plane on the goal line is too easy for a touchdown. If all you have to do is break the plane, I think that the end zone line should be equal all around the end zone. I'm getting way off subject. I apologize.
Yeah, I think the break the plane, we need to keep it like that if it's my team with the ball.
How long ago was your birthday?
Like a week or so. This is the 10th.
You still banging that chain?
I am.
What did you do for your birthday?
Oh, well, I went on a birthday cruise. Yes,
on the big ocean.
Birthday. That's right. I went on a birthday cruise.
Where was your destination?
Well, so we had one day at sea and one day in Ensenada, Mexico.
Mexico.
Yes.
Wait a minute. Isn't that where this is a headline currently going around the internet where a young lady traveled to Mexico.
Yes.
And God bless her soul. Her name is kind of hard to repeat. I think it's Shanquella.
Yes.
I believe she lost her life.
Yeah.
If you kind of track the time that story broke and your trip, were you guys in Mexico at the same time?
No, she was there before me. She was there end of October, and I was in Mexico like the second week of November.
Were you aware of her story when you left?
No, I was not, but I was aware of it when I came back.
Did you go anywhere close to where she's reported to have been?
No, she was in Cabo.
Okay.
And so, and I was in Ensenada. But it's interesting because when I heard the story, my first thought was, so I cruised for the first time in 2017 and fell in love. Mm-hmm. And since then, I've done the Super Bowl cruise, I don't know, like 3 times or something. I've cruised through the summer.
Be careful announcing that. There's a stigma with females that announce they do the Super Bowl cruise 3 times. Hey.
There's a stigma, but...
I'm telling you, I'm just letting you know.
And those women are being called to a higher standard. I'm already there, so I'm not them.
Okay,
I'm definitely a people watcher.
All right.
And I will tell anyone that on that cruise, you will meet everything. You'll meet PhDs, and you'll meet the best stripper on the planet. You're going to meet everything. So the reason it made me think of those cruises is I noticed that when people are on the boat, on the ship rather, and especially when they get into Mexico, Americans, a lot of them, too many of them, warp into something different. Now, I don't know what this girl was exactly doing with her friends. I don't know how much they were drinking, if they were extracurricular. I don't know what they were doing. I did see a video and she appeared to be extremely drunk. I just don't know what else, or inebriated, because I don't know. I can't say drunk, but definitely inebriated under something, because they were just wild. You know, you could look at them and say, okay, they're on something, whether it's alcohol or whatever. So
We got a clip.
Okay.
We're learning that the Charlotte FBI field office has officially opened an investigation into the death of a woman on vacation in Cabo, Mexico back in October. Now, Queen City News first brought you the story about Shanquella Robinson's mysterious death last week. As anchor Morgan Francis reports, police investigating the case are sharing what they've discovered so far.
Thursday, Mexican authorities told Queen City News Shanquella Robinson's friends lied to them about what happened to her prior to her untimely death on October 29th. An officer investigating the case says they interviewed two friends at the villa in Cabo who said Shanquella Robinson had alcohol poisoning. The same story her family says they told them.
They said she wasn't feeling well. She had alcohol poisoning. They couldn't get a pulse.
It wasn't until her autopsy came back that Mexican police discovered she had a severe spinal cord injury and atlas luxation, which is instability in the uppermost vertebrae. They also didn't see this video showing Robinson get violently assaulted until Wednesday. For that reason, their investigation is still open and they're looking into her death.
There's a huge financial incentive to keep Cabo open and to keep people feeling safe. So to the extent they can find, prosecute, and incarcerate the people that did this, in my opinion, they're going to try to do it.
Kurt Kearns is an international attorney with experience litigating international crimes and investigations. Some of what he has to say might not be the most promising news.
It's a sovereign state. So that's the first misunderstanding a lot of people have, is that, hey, man, if I'm an American and I'm in trouble somewhere, boy, they'll come to my rescue. And the reality is, not unless there's a really big interest internationally in coming to your rescue, because they will not upset international relations with a sovereign nation just to help out.
For a black girl. For a black girl.
For a WNBA player, for nobody.
Granted, I was just thinking about her as well. But I noticed one thing that in that report, it said that Charlotte opened up an investigation. I thought that Charlotte was out of jurisdiction.
Well, the FBI in Charlotte.
Okay.
Right. And so that's more to her friends who were there to find out what happened.
Okay.
Because, you know, murder, if you murdered an American
Take
citizen.
nobody out there and drop them off for dead.
Well, if you murdered an American citizen, you murdered the American citizen. The
Okay.
FBI, they have to determine, we don't care that you were over there. You killed her.
I heard a lawyer speak to intent. So the only reason I heard the lawyer say the only reason America could get involved is if they can prove that you went there with the intent to do so. And then wherever we can establish the intent to do it, that area has the jurisdiction. So if we can prove you were in California or you were in Charlotte and you plan, we finna take this bitch out and kill her. If we can somehow get evidence toward that, then that jurisdiction. But it's outside of that, if we find out Americans went out here and it happened randomly, there's an issue of jurisdiction of what America is entitled to do.
Well,
no? It don't make sense, no?
Well, it's really just an ask, right?
Oh, from one government to the other.
Right. It's just really an ask. That's why he then followed up by saying, if there's not a vested interest.
I heard all that. But all I heard him saying, even before he actually verbalized it, how easy is it for you to cue and pinpoint portions of that statement? You go right to that last part? Is that easy? I want to hear it because I knew what he's about to say.
Yeah.
I heard it coming.
Yeah.
And I translated it as he was saying it.
Yeah.
And if it was one of my nieces or something like that, we probably would have some moral interest.
And still maybe not even, because he's just a lawyer.
Ooh, but I mean of my...
You mean if it was Mitch McConnell's niece?
Yeah, or the people that got
crimes
Kanye
and
tongue-tied.
investigations.
Okay.
Some of what he has to say might not be the most promising news.
It's a sovereign state. So that's the first misunderstanding a lot of people have, is that, hey, man, if I'm an American and I'm in trouble somewhere, boy, they'll come to my rescue. And the reality is, not unless there's a really big interest internationally in coming to your rescue, because they will not upset international relations with a sovereign nation just to help out.
The police officer investigating the case.
Now, listen, you notice he said international relations. So he's not just talking about with U.S. and Mexico. Let's say, exactly.
Russia.
Right. Let's say me and China and me and Russia, we got something with Mexico. It's not just me asking Mexico. These other two got to sign off too. And there's always this hand, that hand, scratch, this.
Right.
Exactly. There's so much going on.
And earlier in the report, they basically established what would be the lack of interest is because it's the interest of keeping Cabo open as a safe, friendly.
Exactly. And so I'm going to tell you, when I cruise, when we go to Ensenada, there's a place that we go to. It's called Papas and Beers. Okay, and so Americans own Papas and Beers. Some guys went down there.
That's a common sign in LA. Like I've seen that all my life.
Papas and Beers. Yeah, because everybody's like, go to Papas and Beers, get on the cruise ship, and go to right.
Okay.
So when you get to Papas and Beers on huge weekends, Super Bowl weekend, I was on Veterans Day weekend. Different things. What happens is it's so packed and it's so busy, they'll have federales outside. So it's on a corner lot. And you'll have 3 or 4 of them standing out there. Sometimes they have on ski masks. Sometimes they don't. Completely, was it Kevlar? Is that what it's called? All protection on. AK-47s in their hands. And they're standing out there not to cause fear for us, but to make the Americans feel safe. Because you're not going to come here and go up and down this strip and buy this stuff and pull out your money. You're not going to spend lots of money in Papas and Beers. You're not going to do all that stuff if you don't feel safe. Because every location, I don't care where you are, there's a criminal element. So
that's how it is. I'm sorry, but I've been to Haiti, and I can recall when we would be in extreme poverty, where these people were like picking up empty bags and refilling them and selling water. This is their reality.
Right.
You can walk 100 feet from there, and then they will have a fucking like Boys Market or a Vons or Safeway reminiscent of home. But out in front of that, they had with the choppers, so we could be comfortable going in there.
Exactly.
And it was like right on the opposite side of
right. Because if something happens to you, you're not coming back. The
Right.
money must flow. And so whether they know somebody's gonna mess with you or not, they want you to feel comfortable because they know what the world is saying. Oh, this will happen to you if you go here. This will happen to you. Now, what I've noticed on some of the ships and in Ensenada, Americans, we have been so like brain just in our head, your rights, you got freedom of this, your constitutional rights. I've been in Ensenada and heard somebody say, my constitutional rights. I said, you ain't got no constitution or no rights on this street.
That's a rap over here. Your rights are rap.
Like, I'm an American. And a lot of times we have that. And we're just so uneducated, we don't know.
Entitled.
We got our entitlement, our chest out. I'm an American, I'm this, I'm that. Now, I'm not saying that that's what these people were doing, but it creates dangerous situations. When Americans were on the ships, and I watched them with just the pompous attitude of I'm an American citizen, like I have my rights, and you have to remind them that does not apply here. And I've seen people get so drunk, so just even trying new drugs. I've seen them do so many things to the point where one cruise, we all were boarded and we were leaving, and the captain had to announce that he had turned back around. He turned back around, redocked, to let someone off so she can be put in the hospital because the doctors on the cruise ship didn't believe that they were going to be able to save her.
Based on what?
How much drugs and alcohol she had consumed when she was. So we go to other countries.
With these females, because it's not like it doesn't seem like interaction with any foreigners is indicated in the tragedy.
Right. No, my point is that when we go to foreign countries, more often than not, we wild out on another level.
But how do you think
these are her? So when I watch the video,
how does that?
So I'm watching this video. I'm watching this video, and these are friends of yours.
Apparently.
So apparently, she's slinging you and throwing you around the room everywhere. You're getting on the floor.
Have any idea as to
you're
why?
Covering your head, and they don't know why. But this is the thing: the other friend, is videotaping. Now, would any of that have happened if they were in Charlotte? Probably not.
I mean, there's no way.
There's no way to know.
Yeah.
But you see what I'm saying? When we have a tendency to go abroad, it's like we still feel like we're untouchable.
If you feel like the level of intoxication played a part, then the region or the location, outside of the fact that you only got that loaded because you were there, it's irrelevant.
Well, and I think also the way that they were able to just handle her.
Without
how they were throwing her around and
more
just
familiar with her stepping up, being around, because is it reported that these other people were closer to one another and she was like with them and they weren't like an equally mixed group? Was she like with a group of friends that were more closer than they were with her?
That part wasn't clear from the story that I watched, and from what I read, they were a group of friends going to celebrate.
What about her age? Are we aware of her age?
She's 20.
Oh, baby, yeah. God bless your soul. I'm so curious. Not really curious. I'm only curious because we're discussing it.
Well, because one of the girls on one of the reports, they called her mother to let her mother know that she was sick and she wasn't feeling well, but like, she's laying down or whatever. And then hours or whatever later, they call her back and they're like, she did. So when you talk about who's friends with who, my friend's going to have maybe my mother's phone number, but just people I'm with, they might not have my mother's number.
And then,
even if they got it from her phone. I mean, there's so many things, but to feel comfortable to call your mom and tell her that.
That's based on a lot of normal assumptions too, like that we just assuming things are going the natural way that we think they're supposed to go. A lot of times the word mother doesn't implicate what we assume it means either.
Yeah. Well, and then there's a commentator made a accusation on social media that the phone call was made to help their alibi, that when they called that she was actually already done.
That's deep.
But
I wish I knew more about the situation. Yeah.
But when I saw the story, I thought to myself, man, that's so unfortunate that we go abroad and things happen to us. And definitely this girl did not deserve, I don't care what she was, if she was high, drunk, whatever, I don't care about any of that. She didn't deserve.
I mean, we so quick to pass judgment on the fact that she lost her life and say what was deserving.
Well, I mean,
not knowing what triggered.
I said that to say I don't want anybody to feel like I'm saying the fact that drugs and alcohol were played, that somehow she contributed to her own demise.
Right.
She did not.
Right.
She did not. When I watched the story, my first thought was, we get so wild when we go. I've seen it firsthand. On the ship, in Ensenada, off the ship, and sometimes I'm like, and you don't want to be judgmental of people, but I'm like, wow, they doing all that.
You saying all that now, but when I was trying to tell you about them Super Bowl crews, I was talking about.
But I watch it.
Yeah,
like, I watch it because I'm a people watcher, and it's fun to watch, and it's crazy to watch. You're like, these people are acting crazy.
I got family members, and y'all know who y'all is. They hot in the ass. Them Super Bowl cruises get cracky.
The Super Bowl cruises are fun.
I bet. I heard.
It's the first cruise I took my mother on. She loves it.
See, don't do that. Because I am not in any form or fashion insinuating that mom's is in that category.
I wasn't. I know you wasn't.
So you didn't have to go that far to defend your presence.
My point is that everybody's not on the ship doing everything. People are on the ship.
I know. But that's like saying you go to the club for Bible study.
No. We were having fun. We was taking shots. We were having fun. My mother is fun, okay? But I'm going to tell you that it was funny, just the side note, on one of the Super Bowl cruises, there was a family there. And either he wasn't into sports or he didn't realize what he was getting into. And they scheduled their family trip. And on the Lido deck on day one, he was sitting over to the side with his wife and their daughter, and his face was as red as fire. And he just was sitting there mad, and his wife was sitting there, and we tried to smile at her, and she was like almost afraid to smile. But needless to say, he didn't have a great vacation.
No, the whole time he stayed in the same?
No. I didn't know the man where his cabin was, but just...
But that moment probably passed. Because we don't even know what triggered it. There's a lot of assumption goes behind that. I'm pretty sure he was sound mind. He agreed to be there, and there's no telling. She might have saw her high school sweetheart and hugged him too hard.
You're right. You never know.
Yeah.
There's what they tell you when you get on the cruise ship. To get on early, have your swimsuit on under your clothes. You can get in the pool and go to eat lunch and get in the pool. And so the average departure, the pool is full, the jacuzzis are full, everything is full, and everybody's eating, having a good time. On the Super Bowl cruise, I have photos to prove it. On the Super Bowl cruise, the pool is empty on day one.
Why?
What? You think we're going to get our hair wet?
Oh, not us. Yeah, not us.
So on a ship where there's
probably... There don't be no white people in the pool?
Yeah, but the Super Bowl cruise is probably about 85, 90%.
Exactly.
us
Exactly.
and 10-15% like
So it's just a
whatever
real
else.
party.
Exactly. And if you don't do your research and know what weekend you're booking, you will not get the cruise that's on that commercial. And that's the look I saw
On
in
the
that
cruise,
man's
it's all you
face.
can eat, huh?
In most places, they do have some restaurants where you can purchase things, and they just actually put some limits on a couple things. But for the most part, yes, it's all you can eat. But it's interesting, you know, and it's unfortunate that this happened to this girl because, you know, it would have been a wonderful thing for them to go have a trip, come back and have fun and whatever. If you have beef with her before you go, like, don't go with her. When you, if it's already booked and planned, when you get there, swap rooms, figure out a way to make it happen. But for her to die.
Well, are you willing to like speculate on any sense of what you think the origin of the conflict was based upon? I want to throw out there, I bet it would have something to do with a dick, a man, or something of that nature.
Unfortunately, most beefs between women do.
And for it to go that violent, it appears to me, I would assume that the loser in the long run probably won the charm or the romantic shit, the interest.
Well, you know what, I suspect
and
that,
I'm just speculating.
Right, and me too. But I can speculate that in the next couple months or so, we're gonna know exactly what happened.
I agree.
Because just like when I said, when they tilt their little head and be like, a guilty person, you know, an innocent person doesn't this and that. It was too many of them in the group. If it was two, they might get away with it. But it's too many of them. They just got to scare one, and they gonna let it rip. They gonna be flowing like next 48.
And one, I seen a dude already doing a whole lot of talking about how he pulled up and they called and said she was sick. He tried to talk to her. They was doing too much talking to the cameras.
People can't wait to talk. Sometimes they try to make themselves look innocent. My man in Georgia, when Ahmaud
Arbery, rest in peace. God bless.
Yes, God bless his soul. The third man, the family friend who spoke first and told, in his mind, he was like, I'm separating myself from them and I'm going to tell everything that happened so I can clear myself and I'm good. And all you did was get yourself in trouble because we all want to be the one to talk or say. And in that group, there's one or two. Bet.
He didn't know how long the arm of the law reached in this situation. And the law, they so cold. It's funny we can finally laugh at it when it's not turned at us. Yeah. When they sit there and let you just like, oh yeah, talk your way out. Oh yeah. All right.
What else did they do? And what did you do? And what did you do? Well, I did this, but only because he said, and none of that even mattered.
Not at all.
You went down with him.
Yeah, that's funny.
Yeah, that was the tragedy behind it, absolutely horrific, sad. The way it all played out, it was almost funny. Because it's like you was literally, right. You put yourself above this white man, I'm going to do this and do that and tell them and I'm going to be this and I'm going to be separated and man.
I don't know. This is I don't know how familiar you are with this new case that I've been hearing about on talk radio. Remember the nurse up out of Texas that had the incident in Windsor Hills where she plowed through the And then are you familiar with the Darnell Brooks story from up out of I think it was Kansas? Well, where is it about? But I think a year ago around Christmas time, he was responsible for driving a vehicle through a crowd at a parade.
Right.
I find it ironic that both of those individuals, from the day of their events or the incidents, they were incarcerated and one has been found guilty. He got like a gazillion years. The other one is still going through adjudication, or litigation. But there's recently in LA been a situation where someone who is not black was driving a vehicle and was responsible for hitting like a group of cadets of the police academy that were out jogging or something of that nature. I think he hit like upward of 15 individuals. Some have lost a limb. There are people where no one has lost their life in comparison to the other situations where I believe there were actually 6 deaths apiece. But I just find it ironic, and I'm not trying to just like bring up this element, but I just find it ironic. I don't know if you're aware, the person who has been, who was responsible for running over the cadets was allowed to bail out throughout the process I mean, like days after the incident. I don't believe he was in jail a day or two. He was allowed to post the bail, and he is now being able to deal with this situation as a free man. And I just, at this point, the points that they bring up as to why he's allowed to get out, because they were saying, and I only know this from the way of talk radio, the points that they were bringing. I just feel like there's a disparage. Something's not right about the fact that he is not fighting this shit from in jail. I don't give a fuck. It's like the law, it's just being so far for others. Just like, I'm going off subject once more, but it still makes the sense in the same point. Are you familiar with the black activist leader who just got so many years for bringing his gun to a presentation? You know them dudes? I don't think the name of their group is called I Don't Give a Fuck. Or are you familiar, Alex? It's a black dude. You know him, bro. He was popping on the internet. He used to show up to shit armed, like with the.
So we have gun laws, right? So he showed up armed. So the only reason that he would be, in jail.
He pointed his gun allegedly toward an officer.
Okay,
at
so
a rally.
So that would be the problem, because
he just got 7 years.
So because you can't do that. So let's say he can carry legally. Let's say even has a concealed carry, and he can have it on him. And in certain situations, when you have a concealed carry, you must report and let them know that you're carrying. There's certain things you got to do.
The point I was going to make is when you compare it to what Kyle Rittenhouse went through, and how the law was so open to exhaust every inch of possibilities and thought and break it down to the very last moment. This dude didn't get that benefit.
So what state was the first one in? Because the other one's in Missouri, right?
The Kyle was, but this black dude, I hate that. I hate the fact that I'm not.
That matters also.
No, but my point, all that is all thrown into the gumbo of this America.
Right.
So, because none of that actually matters, even though it does.
Right.
So the fact that they allow any of that to matter up under this one big concept of, democracy for each one, there's so many variables to make it bullshit in my mind. And I didn't mean to say that because you take it sacred like a religion. You talked about you fell in love with the whole concept.
No, but you're right. That's why it's like, but remember, I got the wake up call during that case. So it don't have anything to do with that. It has to do with who's the baddest, who studied the most, who wrote the best brief, who presented it the best, who understood
who can
this
convince
law.
the people who have to make the decision, or who has the most influence on the people that make the decision. Because we saw in real time when Rodney King got beat, they initially were found not guilty.
Exactly.
While we were staring at it on camera.
Right.
So there's a lot of things that play part other than proving you did what you are accused of. Because the proof was there.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You got to take a step further, right?
Yes.
So we're putting it in the hands of these 12 people over here. So now, as your defense attorney, it's my job to make sure I know and understand all those 12 people. And then I got to be a chameleon.
And you realize this, as the defense attorney, as well as the prosecution and the judge, all you guys are playing on the minds of people who have not been educated on the law as you. You guys are all playing down on an educational level on the law to people who are so inferior to your understanding of everything in here.
Oh my! You know what? You literally just laid out what the actual problem is. Do you remember when George Bush?
There should be professional jurors.
When George Bush Jr. was elected, somebody said, when they asked the people, why'd you vote for him? He said, because he seems like the kind of guy I want to have a beer with. Right?
That's America.
So
that's who Donald Trump is too.
Exactly. So what happens is a lot of times you have these super liberal people who, for some reason, they believe that everybody's crazy, super educated. You can watch our president, our vice president, you can watch them give a speech, and it's like, now why did you have to throw all those big words in there? It doesn't matter if I understood it or not. There's the America that you're losing don't know what you're saying. Then you have Donald Trump over here in Michigan, and this is when I knew he would win after this night. He was in Michigan giving a speech. That man said, I remember a time when all the cars were built in Detroit and you couldn't drink the water in Michigan. I mean, in Mexico. He said you couldn't drink the water in Mexico and all the cars were built in Detroit.
Now it's reversed.
He said now it's reversed. And that was during the time of the Flint water issue. When he said it, the way he said it, so perfect, poignant, like the way he said it, I was like,
That reminds me of the movie
he won.
with Chris Rock, Head of State, what you're describing. Yeah. Because the whole premise of the movie was they were trying to find somebody stupid enough to be a dummy candidate for the guy that they wanted, that he'd do nothing but lose.
Exactly.
And he just came out there and spoke to like points like you just, and it just started hitting for him.
Because this is the thing. They want to be so educated and proper, they forget that they need to be down-to-earth human and make me feel them. So when you're in a court of law, that's what those lawyers are doing. Most of them, they know the same law. But if someone's talking to you and this and that and you're bored and, oh, what is he talking about? Then somebody else is like, you know what? That was his homegirl.
If it don't fit, you must have quit.
Exactly. You got to make a person feel like, oh, I understood what he said. That man, really? When he said that, I looked over at my mother. I was at my mom's house. I looked over at her. I said, he just won.
But I still, you know what? You just made me revert to the concept of you describing like the Law and Order Perry Mason concept of the courtroom too.
They would
That's
do that.
where it comes in, the element.
Because
that moment, it does have its time in the court process.
The title of your show, Factz Ova Feelinz, when they come to court with all these facts, when it's time for questioning a witness or closing summation, I don't care about no facts. We done beat them over the head with facts for days. Now it's time for me to hit their feelings and make sure that they feel what I'm feeling.
Look, swear to God. I swear to on my mama, that's why no matter what they want to say, he didn't say. T.I. sitting on the stand describing how he had to call old boy mama and explain to his daughter with all that passion, even though he included facts too that incriminated. The way he invoked feelings is just terrible. You're right. You're right.
And a great attorney understands that, because you've been beat over the head with facts. If you're a jury member, you're tired. You don't even want to be here no more. You counting the money. They ain't even giving me enough for the day. I'm tired. I got stuff to do. You ready to go. When they start playing on your heart and messing with your feelings, now you're going to start remembering facts, because they only going to bring up the facts that help them. They're going to hit you in your heart, hit you in your heart. And you got these people in Flint and Michigan everywhere donating water, doing all this stuff. And you just reminded them that you used to drink the water from Mexico, and now they got all your jobs. And then I look at you and say, I'm going to bring those jobs back. Now, this is the real issue. Hillary, I don't know if you remember, she didn't go. You know, she popped a collar too soon. They didn't really go to Michigan. They didn't really go to Pennsylvania. It's like, oh, we got them. Never turn your back on those that have been there for you.
That's a deep point, but I'm going to ask you a question.
Yeah.
If you had 2 minutes to sum it up, what would you do? Because that's exactly what you have, about a 1 minute and 56 seconds.
To sum up,
just the whole experience today, Factz Ova Feelinz, SPI, Brigette, first time. We got things we're working on, definitely levels and layers in production.
It's coming.
But you know, this was very necessary for us to get this out of here. This is our virgin time. I appreciate it. I would love to get your feedback on how it went versus how you thought it would go, your experience being here, and just sum up the conversations that we had. Last words.
Yeah, so I'm appreciative of today, first of all.
Likewise.
Thank you very much.
Yes, indeed.
Thank you very much. And it was interesting and absolutely enjoyable.
Yeah, I must agree.
I think my initial thought was a little anxious, nervous. You know, you don't know what you don't know.
Right.
But it was definitely relaxing, welcoming, friendly, and we had a good time. We had a little bit of conversation, or a lot of bit of conversation before we actually went on air. Yeah. But it was definitely wonderful. And I got a cup for you. I got a birthday cup.
I need mine. Is it the same color?
It is.
I'll accept it. I was just curious.
It is.
I'll take it.
So,
I'll take it. I appreciate the cup, and I definitely want to leave the door open for a return visit. Anytime you might have anything you might want to bring to the table, or just have it open for me to be able to reach out and invite you back to do something similar. We basically tackle current events here. Okay. So we touched in a current event today, so maybe a few weeks down the line, invite you back, and as long as you be open to it, we would love that.
Absolutely.
Yes, appreciate
Absolutely.
it. You want to let these people know where they can get in touch with you on your social media platforms, anything you're building outside of what we're building, anything you want to let them know. That's your camera right there.
Yeah, so, actually you can definitely follow me on Instagram. It says I am Legendary Lady. And there's some other things that we have coming along.
Levels and layers?
Levels and Layers is coming, yeah, and that's gonna be full on production. We going into business, y'all. We gonna have a great time.
And we trying to figure out if we want to do it pre-produced or we gonna do it virtual. We got a lot of concepts. We got content. We put it together. Don't sleep, don't slip. Factz Ova Feelinz, another episode in the can. You know we be right back at you, man. Keep it a Google on my mama.